thoroughly enjoyed today's coronavirus task force briefing.
Oh, I liked it too.
Great. Oh no, it was a tour de force. And they can dish it out to Trump. They can accuse him of everything, xenophobia, racism. And the second he stands up and calls them on their nonsense, they cry foul and cut away.
We are cutting into what was not a White House coronavirus task force briefing. I am Ari Melber. Our special coverage continues. We are going to avoid airing any more of this White House briefing until it returns to what it was supposed to be, which was the coronavirus task force providing medical information.
So they don't like being, they don't like the tables being turned on them. I love it.
There's a reason why the majority of Democrats believe that President Trump said that there were good Nazis and bad Nazis and good white nationalists and bad white nationalists. There's a reason why the majority of Democrats believe that Donald Trump mocked the handicap reporter when he did no such thing. There's a reason that the majority of Democrats believe that Donald Trump referred to the coronavirus as a hoax. There's a reason that the majority of Democrats believe the Russians not only interfered with the election, Sean, but believe that the Russians actually changed vote tallies. And the answer is the liberal media, the bias, the hatred towards Trump, the hatred towards Republicans, the hatred towards conservatives. And this is the president who, for the first time in a full-throated manner, has taken on the media and called them fake news, and they can't stand it. They helped to make him by putting him on early on in 2015 when he was running because they thought of him as a joke. Then they realized too late he was a serious candidate, and now they're mad at themselves for making him the president of the United States.
In February, Nancy Pelosi said we should come to Chinatown. This is late February. Come to Chinatown. We think it's very safe. Come here. Let's all have the big parade, Chinatown parade, probably referring to San Francisco. And that's it. But I took this action early. And so the story in the New York Times was a total fake. It's a fake newspaper, and they write fake stories. And someday, hopefully in 5 years when I'm not here, those papers are all going out of business because nobody's going to want to read them. But now they like them because they write about me. Now, with that, I have a couple of interesting, we have a few clips that we're just going to put up. We could turn the lights a little bit lower. I think you'll find them interesting. And then we'll answer some questions. I'll ask you some questions because you're so guilty, but forget it. But most importantly, we're going to get back onto the reason we're here, which is the success we're having. Okay? Please, you could put it up. Thank you.
People should be more concerned right now with the flu in this country.
A lot of people are concerned about the coronavirus because they're hearing a lot of news about it right now. But the reality is, comparing it to the flu, for example, it's not even close to being at that stage.
What if it is worse? Is this a moment where maybe countries put politics aside, a little bit of pride aside, and do we have U.S. officials, should U.S. professionals such as yourself get involved?
How worried should Americans be about coronavirus?
Coronavirus is not going to cause a major issue in the United States.
Well, we've asked them to accelerate whatever they're doing in terms of a vaccine. We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Medicare patients can now visit any doctor by phone or video conference at no additional cost.
The first 1 million masks will be available immediately.
As there were more cases, and it was clear that it was spreading out of China, where it originated, the president took this move that he was widely criticized for by Democrats and even some Republicans at the time, which was he halted a number of flights from China into the U.S. The idea was to halt the spread of the disease, keep transmissions to a minimum. He was accused of xenophobia. He was accused of making a racist move. At the end of the day, it was probably effective because it did actually take a pretty aggressive measure against the spread of the virus.
His team is on it. They've been responsive late at night, early in the morning, and they've thus far been doing everything that they can do, and I want to say thank you, and I want to say that I appreciate it.
He returns calls. He reaches out. He's been proactive. We got that Mercy ship down here in Los Angeles. That was directly because he sent it down here. 2,000 medical units came to the state of California, these FMS, these field medical stations, and that's been very, very helpful.
The president has been outstanding through all this. The vice president's been outstanding. Members of the coronavirus task force, very responsive.
We had asked if we could have, New Jersey could have access to a piece of the beds that are on the USNS Comfort, and the president came back, called me a short few minutes before I walked in here to say indeed they would grant that to New Jersey. So that's a big step for us in addition to all the other capacity. That news is literally hot off the press, and I thank the president and vice president who are on the call together.
President Trump approved Arizona's request for a presidential major disaster declaration. I want to thank the president for a quick turnaround. We requested this on a Wednesday, and we had approval by Saturday morning. And we are grateful to the administration for their continued support and responsiveness.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the president and the vice president for doing a really good job of communicating with all the governors.
So we could give you hundreds of clips like that from governors, including Democratic, or Democrat as I call them, governors, which is actually the correct term. And if you look, they were all saying, we need ventilators, you don't hear ventilators anymore.
FEMA is sending us 400 ventilators. We are sending 400 ventilators to New York. 400 ventilators? I need 30,000 ventilators. You want a pat on the back for sending 400 ventilators? What are we going to do for 400 ventilators when we need 30,000 ventilators? You're missing the magnitude of the problem, and the problem is defined by the magnitude.
They have all the ventilators they need, which we were right about. We said, you're asking for too many, you don't need that.
The president was right in his beatdown earlier. The mob and the media, Donald Trump's successful. They're not too happy about it.
I saved tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives by putting it.
That you bought, the argument is that you bought yourself some time. You didn't use it to prepare hospitals. You didn't use it to ramp up testing. Right now,
you're so disgraceful. It's so disgraceful the way you said it. Let me just listen. I just went over it.
If this BuzzFeed News report is true, that the special counsel has evidence beyond just Michael Cohen's testimony that the president directed his former personal attorney to lie to Congress.
Why don't you talk about the things that our president does to make the lives of people better? The middle class booming. Millions of people off food stamps. How come we don't hear about that stuff? How come all we hear about is all of the ridiculous things that the Democrats bring up? I'm talking. It's one American to another American. I'm not violent like the left. That's the left. So why can't you answer me? You have all sorts of things to say on TV, but you can't answer another American's questions.
I just went over it.
In an unprecedented crisis.
Nobody thought we should do it. And when I did it...
But what did you do with the time that you bought?
You know
the
we
month
did?
Of February.
You know what we did?
Was a gap.
What do you do?
Month of February.
What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States? When you excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th.
The entire
January. I said in January.
Your video has a complete gap.
On January 30th.
What did your administration do in February with the time that your travel ban got
A lot.
What?
A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3. And when you ask me that question, let me ask you this: why did Biden apologize? Why did he write a letter of apology? No, that's very important. Why did the Democrats think that I acted too quickly? You know why? Because they really thought that I acted too quickly. We have done a great job.
There's nothing Donald Trump could ever do or say that they're going to like. Today, during the presser over there at Fake News CNN, and, of course, Conspiracy TV, MSDNC, they were actually airing the briefing, and numerous outrageous banners. Angry Trump turns briefing into propaganda session. Playing you in your own words. Another one, Trump uses task force briefing to try and rewrite history. No, he called out your lies and the mob. And Trump refuses to acknowledge any mistake.
No, this is a network, by the way, that talks about facts first. I've seen a lot of the president's briefings. I held a few of them myself. Today was one of his best. He hit back with the facts, Sean.
They were all wrong. Anderson Cooper, March 4th. Flu is more dangerous. You should be focused on the flu. Washington Post. Right. They were wrong. Can't overreact to dealing with this pandemic. New York Times, Trump virus. Wow, that doesn't prove bias, Sean Spicer. The Trump virus. So the president is like, okay, you're not going to tell the truth. The American people need to know the truth. But they think their truth is right. Because in their world of 3 years of never-ending lies and conspiracy theories, they think they're right.
Well, that's right. And even the Washington Post called it the Chinese virus until Trump said it, and then it became racist and horrible. But look at those chyrons that you showed and others have shown that CNN had up. They're calling him angry and unhinged. He wasn't angry. I thought he was in his element today. He was on fire. He wasn't angry, but they have to push back against him because they cannot allow him to be right. And I think Larry was absolutely right. Your monologue was right. They cannot stand to be wrong, and they're doing everything they can to go against him. But at the end of the day, the facts prevail. And what I love so much is he brought this up. The poll numbers show that the American people are trusting him more than them because they know at the end of the day that he's standing up there with all of these government workers that are working their tail off for the American people. And this whole government approach led by the vice president is working.
And Hal, I begin with you because you ran the New York Times. You know your way around journalism. I'm curious, as a journalist, what you think it's important that viewers know when the White House basically takes over what was promised to be a coronavirus task force briefing and does some kind of backward-looking, edited video propaganda instead.
The news today, and this is one of those days as a journalist when you have to put on your analytical hat and hack your way through what's really happening. What really happened today is that some smart, serious governors, Governor Newsom on the West Coast, Governor Cuomo and Governor Lamont on the East Coast, took action to prevent the president from making a thunderous blunder that would further endanger the health of the American people. What we are seeing here, I think, is a kind of imploding presidency. And with an implosion, you have to have a black hole at the center. And I think what we have here is a black hole that consists of two elements. President Trump's extremely fragile ego and his distrust of expertise and government experts.
Joe, I will tell you, I've seen a lot of beatdowns from that podium over the years. I never saw a bigger beatdown than what I saw Trump do to the mob today.
Yes, and to talk about the New York Times, Sean, as far as what they were saying about coronavirus, in February, headline, who says it's not safe to travel to China? The coronavirus travel ban is unjust and doesn't work anyway. And look, the president was going on information he was getting from the medical experts. That's what we keep hearing. Listen to the experts. January 14th, the World Health Organization said that the virus was not a scenario that involved human-to-human transmission. If you look back on this and start to play gotcha, you're going to play gotcha with a lot of people and a lot of news organizations as this thing evolved. This is an unprecedented pandemic, and we can't play this game right now. We have to inform and educate people.
They don't care. They don't even want to take his press conferences. Him calling them out for their lying again, oh, they can't do that.
Ari, I think this is one of the most astonishing acts of disinformation we've seen from a White House since the Vietnam era and the 5 o'clock follies of Lyndon Johnson's administration.
People should be more concerned right now with the flu in this country.
A lot of people are concerned about the coronavirus because they're hearing a lot of news about it right now. But the reality is, comparing it to the flu, for example, it's not even close to being at that stage.
Sanjay, you were telling us the last hour that there's an important context we need to keep this in, and that is that the flu is more deadly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is one of the ironies, I think, that always comes up with this. Take a look at the number.
And the flu right now is far deadlier. So if you're freaked out at all about the coronavirus, you should be
more concerned about the flu, and you can actually do something about it and get a flu shot.
Today, the president was a gladiator. This was a man who clearly, understanding what his job is, standing up for the American people. He knows, like everyone else does, what's been going on. Everyone is doing their best.
Though,
he's got an incredible team around him.
They have no intellectual honesty. If they can't admit in retrospect, the travel ban saved untold thousands of Americans from contracting the disease and exponentially dying.
Let me tell you, the American people, Sean, understand this. Gallup did a poll late last month of who do you trust, how has been the coverage and the handling of the virus. They took 9 entities. The only entity that was underwater when it came to trust by the American people was the news media. 44% approved of their behavior, 55% did not approve. That is the opposite for the president, who is at 60% approval, U.S. hospitals at 88% approval, et cetera. So the only entity that the American people did not approve of by double digits, the only entity underwater, was the news media, which means they're alienating everyone, independents, Democrats, Republicans, because this is a nonpartisan issue about the health of our families and the future. And also, you're right, Sean, intellectual honesty. The president is appreciated.
But you know what, folks? We're going to take our country back from these people. We're going to take it back. These are bad, bad people.
Because they know he's doing his best, he's doing a good job in the midst of that, and he's going to stand up for us and for himself in this process.
And he's presidential, and he's
Sean, not so much a president, but also today, just as an example, Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci are answering questions and giving key data and information about this virus, and CNN and MSNBC were not covering it. Instead, they were doing interviews with opinion folks telling you what they think should happen and how things should go forward, instead of listening to the doctors, which should be the mantra always going forward.
You would think they'd be happy that the models are projecting downward. They'd be happy that the president was able to build these hospitals, get the ventilators, get the respirators, get the masks, get the gloves, get the shields. He gets no credit. Andrew Cuomo doesn't get criticized for denying his own task force, though. Unbelievable.
The president will get credit in November. Watch and see.